Call to order the 35th meeting of the Mayor and City Council, meeting in regular session on Monday, July 22nd, 2019. We will have the invocation led by Councilwoman Nicholas, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Mo.
Father God, we come to you in prayer, thanking and praising your name, God. Pray for all of our leadership here, all of our department leaders. We pray for every police officer, God, for their safety. God, we pray for everyone that's in our circle of God. Thank you for this day, Lord.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Mr. DeWalt? Mr. DeWalt?
Here.
Mr. Sidnor?
Here.
Ms. Nicholas?
Here.
Mr. Les?
Here.
President Smalls?
Here.
Mayor Mo.
Agenda item 2 is approval of minutes. We'll have I'll entertain a motion. Council to approve the minutes of the 33rd meeting of June 14th, 2019. And we'll kind of work it together if there are no changes or modifications. Also, the approval of the minutes of the work session on July 8th, 2019. If there are no changes or modifications to either, Council, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
President Smalls.
I vote yes. Agenda item 3 is a report of the Mayor and City Council. Tonight we'll start with Councilman DeWalt.
Good evening, everyone. A couple things that I'd like to just discuss or talk about. One of them was I attended on July 13th. It was a Saturday at Oliver's Old Town Tavern. Was the fundraiser for Laurel Cats. If you don't know what about the organization Laurel Cats, they do free spaying, neutering, your shots for the cats, everything. All you gotta do is call them at their number, look them up on the line, and they'll take care of them, especially with strays too. They take all the strays and get them fixed, try to foster them and get them homes. And once a month, they have a fundraiser at one of the local restaurants, and they do quite well with their fundraising activities. I saw on the news, it's actually called Bank Rate, and they are rated the best and worst states for retirement. And when you look through it, it's based on, they rank them overall: affordability, crime, culture, and the weather. And unfortunately, number 50 on the list, which is the worst state to retire in, is Maryland. If you're not aware, we're rated affordability 47, crime 33, culture 42, and weather 18. The weather probably be worse if they did last week and what we went through. But if you're not aware, we are 11 police officers down right now in the and we have another officer, Sergeant Randy Sneerly, retiring Thursday, or possibly at the end of the month. The other thing I wanted to just briefly mention is that if you didn't see it, 60 Minutes last night had an absolute fabulous segment on about what they do in the Netherlands to prevent flooding. And it's just remarkable. They were in 1953, they got they don't get hurricanes or tornadoes, but they get bad storms that come in there. And most of the Netherlands are below sea level. And they were under the theory of just rebuild, and then when another crisis comes through, just retreat and just rebuild it back the same way. Well, what they've done is they've actually did things with environmental site design. This was the original plan of the developer down at Patuxent Greens, but he has basically abolished that plan because now he's just going to do mass grading and fill in that area. They don't have flood insurance anymore because they don't get floods no more. They put this big, huge gate up, which cost them about $35 million, where the main floodwaters come in. It looks like 2 Eiffel Towers together, and they've used it. They use it about twice a year to prevent the flooding. They also do these big barriers where they do underground garages in there. And along the city streets where the flood happens and comes down there and washes some of the buildings away, they put up walls along the city streets. So they do a lot of environmental things, and they spent, like I said, and they had a hard time getting it passed, between $500 and $600 million. And if you want to compare that with one of the floods, Sandy, down in Louisiana, we spent $70 billion to rebuild that. And we really didn't do a lot of, he says, this gentleman who orchestrates this, he says, instead of just having FEMA come out, assessing everything, picking up the dead bodies or whatever, and building it back the same way, look at where the flood was and learn from that, and use environmental site designs to stop the flooding. And like I said, our national flood insurance is going bankrupt, and also with FEMA, they don't even have an organization that comes out in those crises because they don't have any floods anymore. And it's quite interesting. There's also they're going to actually brought this gentleman in to Hoboken, New Jersey, where during Sandy, there was 10-foot swells come into their city and basically destroy their city. And now they've gotten the funding to bring him up there, and he's going to do these environmental site designs up at Hoboken, New Jersey. It's right across from Manhattan on the other side of New York City. The only thing I would like to mention is that the American Legion this year will be celebrating 100 years. In September, there's going to be a lot of dignitaries and veterans coming into the Legion. What I would like to see happen is that we have 2 hometown hero banners by 2 veterans. One was killed in the line of duty while protecting our freedom, and the other one was a well-known business owner who passed away. And those are our 2 hometown heroes. And right now they're on Cherry Lane. If you don't know where that is, not too many people go there because there's 3 lanes on each side of Cherry Lane, and sometimes the trees grow up and they block the banners, and you really can't enjoy them well. It would be nice to see those banners during this time where we have the 100-year anniversary on Main Street, so that when these veterans come down Route 1 either way and they turn onto Main Street, go to the Legion, they could see our 2 hometown heroes, and they could be respected and honored the way they should be on Main Street, where you can walk up on the sidewalk, you could take pictures at the banner, and it would be such a nice place to have those banners. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Councilman DeWalt. Councilman Sidnor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On July the 15th, I attended the Education Advisory Committee meeting. Also, as the mayor promoted Reading Month for July and August, he made a proclamation, and we accepted that last month at the committee. So we encourage all students, whether in high school, middle school, elementary school, to read at least 2 books this summer between August. If you do that, we'll probably try to give you a special recognition from the mayor, a citation or something. So just contact us, the clerk of the city. Let us know that you finished 2 books or something, where we can record your name in, and we'll invite you out to the city meeting and get you recognized by the mayor. And also on July the 17th, I attended a homeless task force committee. The mayor assigned a task force there where we can evaluate the homeless situation in our city and see how we can help those residents of the city that's homeless. So this is just a task force meeting. So we gather information as a fact by any meeting to gather information. I also want to put a plug out, but at the opening public hearing, Mr. Corey Nicole Brooks is going to come up and explain the program more in depth. but we're all about promoting fitness throughout our city, and we're going to focus on our young people, our 6-year-old to 12-year-olds. So they're going to explain more about the program when we have our public meeting opening in a few minutes. That concludes my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Sidnor. Councilwoman Nicholas.
Thank you. I too am on that homeless task force committee. We're going to be developing a lot of good information out of there. It's well attended, and we've got a lot of knowledgeable people on that. In addition, I attended the Celebrate the Parks and Recs Touch a Truck that was down at Emancipation Park. I'd like to thank Joanne Barr and all the police officers and everyone that participated. It was hot, but it was very nice. And as I say all the time, stay hydrated. With these hot temperatures, hopefully we're past them, but with these hot temperatures, you have to drink double the water that you would drink if it's just regular 70 or 80 degrees. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nicholas. Councilman Les.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was in a board meeting today, and I was reminded that the combined federal campaign, federal employees, is going to start here in about 5 weeks. Usually what happens is the United Givers comes on board at the same time. I'll remind everybody to be as generous as you can, because a lot of those charities are hurting right now. Talking about food banks and shelters and so on. The other thing was I was up in Columbia late today and was reminded that person I was speaking with, that he and his neighbors come to Laurel for the fireworks. Because Maple Lawn apparently doesn't have them anymore. They canceled them up there because the county requires them to pay a fee, an administrative fee. I think it was to cover the police. But they said that they like coming to Laurel. The fireworks are great. They plan to be here next year for the 150th. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Mayor Mo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things. Splashdown at the announcements. The splashdown at the Laurel Municipal Swimming Pool. I want to commend Joanne and her staff, as well as I think there were some police officers there as well. So looked like a good event, and it was definitely hot that day. On the 14th, I had the opportunity to attend the 629th EMIB, which is the intelligence for the Maryland National Guard, at their second annual Family Day at Granville Goody Park. We have a great partnership with the National Guard that's up in South Laurel, and we appreciate all that they do in their partnership. And I was happy to be there on behalf of the mayor and council. We did, again, under the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we had the Mayor's Play Bowl event the same time that Touch a Truck was going on. The Little League, Laurel Little League, I want to thank them for participating as well as our Department of Park and Recreation. And Mr. President, as most know, we are members of Washington Metropolitan Council of Governments. They had their annual retreat this year, and I did have the opportunity to attend. A lot of good information on affordable housing, so I'll be making copies of that and sending that to the council as well. A couple of announcements. August the 4th from 12 to 6 p.m. FITS, Fun in the Sun Day at the Granville Goody Park will take place. August the 6th from 6 to 8 is the Laurel Police Department's National Night Out at Granville Goody Park. August the 12th from 4:30 to 6:30, my time with the mayor at the Robert J. DePietro Community Center will take place. And August the 17th from 4 to 10, the Laurel Board of Trades Back to School End of Summer Family Night Out at Granville Goody Park will take place as well. I have a proclamation, but I can do the appointments real quick if you want,
Okay.
and
Yes.
you all can do. I do have some appointments, Mr. President, and I'm very happy to say we've got the entire membership established for the Citizens Advisory Committee for Persons with Disability. On there, we have Brent Debnam. Did I pronounce that right? Debnam? Okay, thank you. I know how to hack up names. I'm going to have a few more, too. Mike McLaughlin. Mike's in the front. Erin McLaughlin. Erin's in the front. Phyllis Anderson is also with the Citizens Disabilities. Kyla Clark Citizens with Disability, and she is also going to serve on the Environmental Affairs Committee, wants to be involved. Is she here by chance? She's in the back, so thank you for coming. We're going to try to keep you busy. So, also a reappointment, Mr. President, of Eileen Collins to CAC for Department of Park and Recreation. If you all approve those, I'll go down in front for this.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, most of these folks, if not all of them, we know. So I would be honored if you would make a motion for approval.
Mr. President, I move for approval. We know all these folks, and they'll do a good job for us.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Is there a second?
I second, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Sidnor. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rao, please call for the vote.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one proclamation. We'll ask the chief. I'll present that to the chief. Whereas National Night Out was first established in 1981 by Matt Perkins of the National Association of Town Watch, which is a nonprofit crime prevention organization working in cooperation with thousands of crime watch groups and law enforcement agencies throughout the country. And whereas National Night Out, America's Night Out Against Crime, was introduced by the association in 1984 and always occurs on the first Tuesday in August. And whereas the purpose of the National Night Out is to inform the public about various police programs and community programs, such as the drug prevention initiatives and the neighborhood watch groups that exist to keep people safe and fight crime in their neighborhoods everywhere. And whereas the 36th annual National Night Out Against Crime is a nationwide event designated to promote neighborhood safety. And whereas National Night Out Against Crime activities are designated to heighten the crime and drug prevention awareness, generate participation in local anti-crime programs, strengthen neighborhood spirit and community partnerships, and send a message to criminals that neighborhoods are organized to fight back. And whereas the focus of National Night Out is to allow our police department, volunteer fire department, and volunteer rescue squad to present demonstrations and activities for the community. Now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the mayor of the city of Laurel, do hereby proclaim August the 6th, 2019 to be National Night Out Against Crime in the city of Laurel, and encourage all to participate. Chief? Let's get one with everybody. Let's do it. I'm going to ask the chief to say some comments about National Night Out, and then he is going to give an update, a little bit of an update to the council on some incidents that occurred, as well as the general public.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, Council. I'm Russ Hamel, for those who don't know me. I'm the new police chief. Really probably figured that out already. Of course, I didn't figure out you have to turn the mic around. I'll be real quick, just take a few minutes. First off, about National Night Out. This is a great event. We ask that you please come out, join us, meet members of your police department, get to know us a little better. At the end of the day, I think you're just going to find we're just members of the community like you. We just took on a different responsibility. You get to see us in a different light. So I ask you, please come out. It's the first Tuesday in August, as it is every year. And this year, am I allowed to mention this? Okay. This year it's going to be a little different because the mayor and council have worked together and decided that will be my official swearing in, because we wanted the community involved with that, to see that, rather than just do it in a private room by ourselves. So I'd appreciate it if you came out, because other than just my wife cheering for me, it'd be nice to have somebody else. A couple things, as many of you know, we're investigating a homicide that unfortunately occurred 2 weeks ago yesterday. I think if I'm right, it's the end of June. Our detectives are working, matter of fact, myself and Lieutenant Lynn just left a meeting about that with a number of our detectives. They're working very diligently on these cases. It's not like on TV. In TV, they got an hour to solve it. The DNA is always right. Everything's always right. It's not like that. A lot of times it's just good old-fashioned police work. So I promise you, though, they're working extremely hard at this, all the detectives. And Sergeant Cunningham's leading, and Lieutenant Hamilton's leading that charge. And I'm hopeful that we have a positive resolution on that. Unfortunately, we had a second shooting on Friday night over at Rosemore Lane, the 14300 block. Really at the intersection with, I'm probably going to mess up how I pronounce it, Cavan, or so I got it right. I'll take that. In that intersection there. So what happens is the Prince George's County Police Department broke up a party over in Lanham. Seemed like it got broken up a little early, so people started arriving over here in Laurel between 9 and 10 o'clock at a party. It transferred over here. We didn't have any calls for service there, no calls for a loud party, underage drinking, the normal things that go along with that. We had no calls for service there. We understand around midnight the party broke up. We were told abruptly broke up. We can only imagine people at the house said they were done. So the party broke. I have right now 5 teenagers in my house, so I understand things being abruptly finished. So this abruptly finished. Around just about 12:30, or in police parlance, 00:30 hours, we received a call for shots fired and subsequently found that a victim had been struck with a round. Investigation revealed that, well, first off, I just want to say our cops responded. They were assisted by the fire department shortly thereafter. And when they found the person that was struck, they provided first aid to the victim, and subsequently the victim was transported to a local trauma center for treatment, where they remain. Our investigation learned that there had been an altercation somewhere after the party broke up until 12:30, in that about half-hour window, between a number of males. Our victim and their friends were unrelated to this group. This is just a completely offshoot group. There's somewhat of an altercation that ended, but as you can see in the lookout that we placed, a dark-colored SUV was seen driving up and down the street a number of times after that, when 4 shots rang out, and then subsequently a 5th shot rang out. We collected physical evidence associated with it, and once again, our detectives are diligently investigating this matter. Now, as you can imagine, at a party, it leaves us with a lot of people to interview. Ends up being a larger area for us to comb for physical evidence, scientific evidence. And once again, it's not like if you watch NCIS, where Abby just plugs it in the computer and we got the answers. That's not how it really works. So this is going to be, again, good old-fashioned police work, hard work by the detectives. And our detectives have been on that case all weekend. And I can tell you they're answering my questions at 3 o'clock in the morning and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're out there. They're really working this hard. So, but what I would ask is, even though we recovered physical evidence, we've taken statements from people that were at the party, witnesses. If you have a piece of information, I know this is being broadcast now, if you have any piece of information, no piece is insignificant, call us. We keep people anonymous. Call us if that's what you wish. Call us. You could have the key to it. Which brings me to one final thing. I've heard from some members of the community, especially about cars getting broken into, that sometimes they don't call us because they don't want to bother us. That's what we're here for. It's supposed to bother us. It's not our bother. That's our jobs. My officers took an oath to serve and protect everybody. That's what they do. Please call us. Even if nothing was stolen out of your car, it helps us develop patterns that we're able then to address those patterns by adjusting our resources in order to combat the crime. So it may seem like nothing to you, but it is something to us. Your car gets broken into, or you have something stolen, whatever it is. Please call us. It helps us to direct our resources properly, and hopefully working together, we can bring in the people that are responsible for that. I will say this, our officers have taken great initiative over the past 6 weeks out here with thefts from autos. A lot of surveillance, a lot of foot patrols, and we've made a good number of arrests. They keep teasing me because they seem to keep arresting people from Montgomery County, so they accuse me of bringing them with me when I came here. I assure you I did not bring any of these guys with me, but they are, we've had a good number of arrests, and we've recovered some property, so please, this is what we do. Please let us know. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And I'm sorry, it's always, my back's to you guys, so I apologize.
They're the important one.
Any questions here? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'm very pleased to say that we have a number of folks in attendance at our meeting tonight. If any of you would like to speak on any one of our agenda items, there's a sign-up sheet on the table just to the right of this conference, this chamber. So if you would, if you're interested in speaking, sign up. I'm going to take things a bit out of order since we do have a court reporter, and I'm going to move to agenda item number 8, legislation, specifically 8B, consideration of a motion to remove the table ordinance number 1940. This ordinance was tabled by the council at a previous meeting. And in order for us to move this agenda item forward, I need council a motion and a second to remove it to place it back on the table.
Make a motion to remove it from the table?
We want to place it on the table.
Place it on the table.
Second, Mr. President.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Ms. Nicholas? Mr. Les?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes. Now we will, council, take under consideration the motion, the ordinance number 1940, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel to concur with the City of Laurel Planning Commission for the revised conceptual site plan for the West Side mixed-use development. The property is zoned MXT and located off West Side Boulevard and Van Dusen Road, Laurel, Maryland. This was tabled on Monday, April 22nd, 2019, to allow the developer time to meet with the community. Mr. Gibbs, if you have any comments, I will open our public. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Pulley, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mayor Moe, and the council members. Application number 891, ordinance 1940 was filed on February 19, 2019 by Strip Matter Land LLC, seeking approval for a revised conceptual site plan for the West Side mixed-use development. The property is zoned MXT and located off of West Side Boulevard and Van Dusen Road, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. The applicant, Strip Matter, is seeking concurrence of the approval from the City of Laurel Planning Commission, site plan approval to revise their current site known as West Side to reduce the retail area to 40,000 square feet maximum and include an additional 81 townhouses on the site. Under date of March 4, 2019, the application and a cover letter asking for comments were also sent to the following agencies: Maryland State Highway Administration, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland Department of Planning, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Office of the Clerk of the Council, Prince George's County Council District 1 member, Prince George's County Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement, Verizon, Prince George's County Public Schools Department Capital Programs. The following agencies responded with the following: no issues with the request comments from WSSC, Maryland State Highway Administration, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's Council District 1 member, Prince George's County Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement. Also under date of March 4th, 2019, a memorandum asking for comments was sent to the following city departments: Department of Public Works, Police Department, Department of Parks and Recreation, Office of the Fire Marshal and Permit Services. The following response were received from the city departments: no issues with the request from the Laurel Police Department, Parks and Recreation, Office of the Fire Marshal. The City of Laurel Department of Public Works responded, if any roadway closures or public sidewalk closures are needed on a city street, the applicant must contact the department for approval prior to the start of work. If any utility cuts are performed on a city street, the restoration work must follow the city standards that require the permanent patches in the cut area with a 2-inch mill and overlay from curb to curb and minimum of 25 feet in each direction of the cut. If any decorative crosswalks are damaged, they must be restored to their original state. The applicant must obtain a road hauler permit and is responsible for any damage within the public right-of-way. And the scope of the restoration work will be determined by the department. The applicant also needs to provide a refuse and recycling collection plan to the department for review. If the proposed area will have refuse and recycling collection provided by the department, the roadways need to be built to allow our trucks to safely turn around during collection. According to the submitted statement, the revised conceptual site plan reduces the generated trips and the transportation impact will be less than originally presumed and approved. The applicant's traffic engineering is preparing an updated traffic study which will be filed at a later time. No other comments were received. On March 6, 2019 and May 10, 2019, a letter explaining the nature of the application and advising of the scheduled public hearings of the application before the Planning Commission was sent by certified mail to all contiguous property owners. Excuse me. The application was tabled at the April 9th City of Laurel Planning Commission in order to have the applicant meet with the HOA of the West Side Townhouse community to discuss the proposed changes to the concept plan. The application was heard again by the Planning Commission on June 11th. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor Laurel City Council dated June 13, 2019 read as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on June 11, 2019, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. On motion made by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Bonner, and carried on a roll call vote of all members present, the Planning Commission approved amended MXT Conceptual Plan Number 891 West Side Van Duzen Road and requested the concurrence of the Mayor and City Council in providing an effective date as presented in the technical staff report. Further, the Commission voted to approve Resolution Number 19-03-PC as presented with the following conditions. All construction shall conform to the ordinance as well as the final MXT plan as approved by the City of Laurel Planning Commission. The applicant shall obtain final site and landscape plan approval for the proposed portion of the project from the Planning Commission. The applicant shall obtain preliminary subdivision plan approval for the proposed townhouse portion of the project from the Planning Commission. The applicant shall obtain record plat approval from the Planning Commission for the additional townhouse portion of the site. The applicant shall obtain subdivision plan approval for each individual pad site within the proposed commercial area for the Planning Commission if applicable. The applicant shall obtain final site and landscape plan approval for each individual pad site within the proposed commercial area from the Planning Commission if applicable. The applicant or his designee shall concurrently apply for the building permits for the first retail pad and the residential townhouse units. The applicant shall comply with all applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations in the development of the property. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the July 11, 2019 and July 18, 2019 issues of the Prince George's Centennial. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that the zoning sign has been placed on the subject property for tonight's meeting and has remained and shall remain until a decision is reached by the Board of, not the Board of Appeals, the Mayor and City Council. That concludes the reading of the file, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Pulley. I will now open the public hearing at 6:34. I have one person signed up to speak on this agenda item. That's Mr. Ed Gibbs. Mr. Gibbs, if you'll come forward, give your name and address for the record, please.
Thanks very much.
Turn your
Mayor.
Turn your microphone.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, members of the council, first thing I want to tell you is I was in such a hurry to get up here. I walked out of my office and forgot my jacket. So at least I do have a tie. I can say it. Well, you don't have to wear one, Mr. Mayor, but I feel a little bit underdressed here without my jacket. Very unaccustomed to have something like that happen. Thank you very much. Edward Gibbs, an attorney with offices in Largo, here representing Strip Matter Land, the owner and developer of Westside. I think Christian did a great job giving you the background of where we were and where we have been to. I know that Mr. Jeffrey Mills is in the audience tonight. We came in April before the Planning Commission. Several of the folks living in the 56 townhomes were upset in that our outreach for the meetings that we had did not properly embrace them. And we regret that. That's our fault. So we met with them twice. We met first on May the 1st of this year. We had a very lively and productive discussion. We went away. We went back to the drawing board, took into account the comments and requests of the citizens who lived in the 56 townhomes. We had a second meeting on June the 4th to address concerns and requests that the citizens had made. And number one, we said we would proffer the condition about concurrently processing the permit for the first pad, which is likely to be the pharmacy, and the residential townhome permits. That was the first commitment we made. The second commitment that my client made was if the homeowners association for the 56 town took the steps necessary to annex this property, meaning the 81 townhomes, into their HOA. My client would, at its expense, in lieu of having the village green in the middle in that location, my client will construct a 1,500 square foot community center. The community center will have a kitchen, fully appointed with microwave, sink, dishwasher, the normal things you would find in a sink, a meeting/party room, large flat screen television mounted to the wall, all furnishings with inside the building, including couches and table and chairs, a section of the building allocated as a computer center to accommodate 2 or 3 computers. And outdoor would be a patio with at least 1 grill and patio furniture. We gave the Planning Commission a copy of a floor plan as well as a footprint for the community building, and we gave the Planning Commission a list of the amenities to be included within the community center. So at the appropriate time, assuming that the homeowners association is able to come to agreement to annex this new section into their homeowners association, we will build and will convey the community center to the HOA. They will also take control of the dog park and the smaller recreational amenities within the townhouse component of our addition community. We have been in touch with the management company for the 56 townhomes. We are providing Mr. David Thompson with estimates of cost so that he can compile a budget so that the folks in the 56 townhomes can, have all the facts at their disposal. Because for sure, if they elect to do this, their monthly dues their HOA will increase because of maintenance expenses and trying to sort of bankroll, if you will, some funds for the future when ultimately repairs will be required 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So that's it. We had folks from the HOA come out and testify. I think I could say in support of our position before the Planning Commission when they considered us on June 11th. We have fully embraced the conditions recommended in the Planning Commission resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions, comment? Thank you, Ms. Gibbs.
Thank you.
I have no one else signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone? Oh.
My
Councilman
question is
Sidnor?
mainly for Mr. Mills. Mr. Mills, do you support this legislation? Okay, yeah, your community support this legislation? Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this agenda item?
I have a comment too.
Councilman DeWalt?
My understanding is that this development was even being processed prior to even the city owning that property. Is that correct? Back in 2012, 14, somewhere in there, through the county?
No, we requested that the property be placed in the MXT zone when the county adopted the Subregion 1 Master Plan and Sectional Map Amendment in 2010.
Okay.
A part of the property was placed in the MXT zone at that time. Subsequently, this property started out as 67 acres. State Highway Administration took 23 of those acres for one section of the new interchange. In doing so, they took all of the property's frontage. So in order to avoid having to buy the entire 67 acres, they conveyed to my client a parcel of land which is roughly where the entrance road, Westside Boulevard, comes into the project. That's where our access is. And we had to rezone that through a zoning map amendment request with the city at the time of the annexation for that piece. So it was two separate transactions. So part was zoned by the county and part was owned by the city.
So this has been a long process for you guys.
It's been a very long process, yeah.
Thank you.
Council, any further questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt resolution, ordinance number 1940.
Thank you, Councilman Sidnor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rao, please call roll.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
I'm going at this time, because of the process that you guys have endured, and I met with you several times, and the community's here to vote for it, I will vote yes. But if you represent any other companies before my term possibly ends in November and you come before me, for this council, I think we are being overloaded with construction in the city of Laurel. I think our rivers are being flooded with stormwater, dirty stormwater. I think we have, we're losing way too many trees. I think traffic is horrendous, and it's just going to get worse. And I understand a lot more about these traffic studies where the information is put in, not in reference to accidents or any other concerns about pedestrian safety. It's just volume, and they're put into a computer, and I understand that from the Patuxent Greens. And we are just losing too much of our environment. Our lake had to be put pods in the lake just to clean up the stormwater that's polluting our lake. And when they drained that lake, it was absolutely disgusting, the amount of plastic and tires, and we even pulled a car out of that lake. And I will not vote for any more developments in the city of Laurel until we get a grip on some of the things that we've already put in our city, and it's getting way, way too congested. Thank you.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes.
Mayor Mo?
Let me make a couple comments. Mr. Gibbs, first, if as you move forward with your client and with the homeowners, if it falls apart or it's too costly, want to make sure that we continue to communicate with the entire community there, because I think that's important. I think you've learned a lesson on that. Just a couple comments. Stormwater management. The Laurel Lake is a stormwater management pond. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. that's why it was time for it to clean out and to make some changes to help the filtration in there. So that's we call it a lake, but it is really a big stormwater management control pond. And it starts, there's several different ponds all the way up to where the Goulds are. So, I don't want people to be confused. I think the traffic and other things, we have a lot of cut-through traffic and elsewhere, and a lot of it now that the new road has been put in, Conterra Drive and others, we need to make sure we continue to talk and deal with those developments, because that area is going to be developed. The county is already approved for development for that area, and that's going to be cut through traffic. So we have no control over that. So that's important as well. But I just want to stress of working with the community and making sure as you move forward with these commitments that if it's very, very costly for them or there's issues, that we continue to try to work through this process. And my office is available to help do that as well. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll go back to the regular order of the agenda. Agenda item 5, special recognition of the City of Laurel 4th of July Committee. Green?
Thank you, Mayor Moe. Thank you, Council President Smalls. Thank you, council members, and thank you, audience, for giving me a few minutes. We just recently had the Independence Day celebration, and it really, considering everything that happened with the weather, it went off very well. And again, because of your support, because of the community's support, is one of the reasons why everything always goes so well. So I have a few thank yous that I really want to get out there, and then I've got some plaques that I'd like to give out. So thank you, Mayor and City Council. We can't do this without you. You have supported us through the years. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you to District 1 Councilmember Tom Dernoga for his grant, to the American Legion Post 60 and Sons of American Legion for their support, Donaldson Funeral Home for their last-minute corporate sponsorship that put us over the top, Laurel Lions Club, Laurel Senior Friendship Club. We had 2 fireworks sponsors from Rhoda Sherman and Conversion Fitness. Most importantly, we've got our committee members. If I could take a moment, if everyone would please stand, I'd like to recognize these are just a small portion of who has helped us. Thank you, guys. So for the vendor committee, we have Tracy Krause, Sam Krause, and Haley Krause. For the fireworks committee, we have Jim Cronmeyer, Annie Cronmeyer, Katie Cronmeyer, Christy Cronmeyer, Brandon Stephenson, Brian Bain, Joe Treadway, and so many others that I can't, the faces change. Jim brings the people in, and he makes the fireworks go off without a hitch. Car show, Mike Templeton, Sharon and Dan Sively, Joanne Holt. We had parade judges, Marion Nicholson, Mary Blankenship, Karen Staub. The MCs, Jimmy Collins and Darcy Spencer, as well as the great music from our volunteer and also the WISE director that works with Parks and Recreation, James Agby. We have the hot dog contest, Eddie Souter, Jonna Capizzuto. There we go. All right, I got it. And then we have members Judy Miller, Beth Varnell, Bill Stoner, Sandy Stoner, Donna Malkovetsky, Christy Harmon, and then of course, the city. We have all the city employees. Public Works is Tommy Helms, the director, Rob Faree, all of their crews that just make it look effortless. It looks, by the time everybody leaves, you see stuff scattered on the field. By the next morning you get there, it looks like nothing has happened. So thank you to them so much for making sure that the city stays looking beautiful after an event like that. We have Chief Hamill, Lieutenant John Hamilton, and the officers that look after us and keep us safe at the event. We have Director Joanne Barr, Assistant Director Bill Bailey, Divina St. Peter, Shantae Taylor, and the Parks and Rec crews for manning the Family Fun Games. They help us tremendously throughout the year to make sure we have what we need to make things happen. We can't thank enough the City Administrator Luann Crook, all the directors and the employees who help us make this event look like it's a walk in a park. And of course, thank you to Oracle and AMM Productions for the music and sound. First off, it was of course hot and rainy that day on July 6th, but everyone was there to support this event, and there aren't enough words that this committee can't say, for their appreciation for all that you do to make this day happen year in and year out. We will begin planning for the 2020 event, which is, of course, the 150th anniversary of the city's incorporation. And we have already started discussions on coming up with some little extra additional fun events, but the rain did cut into our donation bin, where people would take it up to the stage and donate. So we really ended up with a lot less than we usually do at the end of the night. So we, again, need the help from the community and the businesses more than ever for this coming year. So consider our sponsor a firework program. Businesses can ask us about our corporate sponsors. We also ask the community to donate online at our GoFundMe page, the Laurel 4th of July celebration. If you can't donate money, consider volunteering. You saw this is a handful. We have a couple more that weren't able to be here. Basically a core group of about 10 members, and we always need more help because it is such a big event. We need people there with ideas and ingenuity and just bulk. We need people. So if you can, think about volunteering, and you can go to our website at laurel4th.org. So let me get to the plaques. Let's start off with the Kevin George Curry Memorial Award presented to Beth Varnow.
Yes.
So it was a tie for members for a 4th of July Member of the Year. Beth, thank you, was one of them. Thank you. No, pick it up. Thank you so much. Oh.
Right. It's
Thank
not
you.
deaf here, you know.
Jim Kronmeyer was the other one. He is our fireworks chair. So thank you to them. We also had the American Legion, who was our grand marshal for the day. They are celebrating their 100th birthday, as was mentioned, so thank you. But also, they won most outstanding overall in our parade that year. So I'll make sure I give this to Eddie so he can take it down to the Legion. So thank you to the American Legion for that, and congratulations on 100 years. Our Harrison Beard Memorial Award goes to Donaldson Funeral Home to recognize outstanding community involvement and contribution to the Independence Day celebration in Laurel. So thank you to them for their donation. And then we have the Mayor Robert J. DePietro Award that's presented to an employee of the city for their outstanding contribution. And this year I gave it to Lieutenant John Hamilton, Laurel Police, who took up the mantle of this. And his first time doing it all on his own, and he did a fantastic job and kept everyone safe, kept everyone informed, and it was greatly appreciated with the hard work that he did. So thank you. I'll make sure the chief gets to give it to him. Thank you. Thank you again, Mayor Moe, Council President Smalls, Council Members Les, DeWalt, Nicholas, and Sidner. Your support of the Laurel 4th of July Committee is greatly appreciated, and we look forward to seeing what we can bring to the table for the 150th. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Corinne, and members of the committee. Even though it was rainy, I don't think that really dampened the spirits of a number of people. And if you judge its success by the amount of traffic that you have to navigate through at the end, it was a great success, rain or no rain. So thank you for all that you do year after year. We really appreciate it. Remember, you want to make comments now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot one item that I thought was important. The administration proposed organic recycling program here in the city. We are doing a pilot program of the first 200 single-family homes that notified Department of Public Works. You may remember we were going to try to do that in certain areas. We feel that it might be better. We know it's going to be better. Where it'll be picked up on Wednesdays. We have the crews to do that. So if you are interested in getting into the organic recycling program, the first pickup will be on Wednesday, August the 7th, which is a Wednesday. That's when we will start the program. And again, hopefully it'll build. We know that there won't be 200 right away. We hope so. And then once we get through the pilot program and the kinks, we will move forward citywide with the organic recycling program. And I apologize, Mr. President, but I thought it was important. Please send an email or call down to the Department of Public Works if you're interested, and we'll get you squared away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Agenda item 6 is a recommendation for consideration of a bid for fleet acquisition. Mr. Faree. We did discuss this as council during our work session earlier this evening. So Mr. Faree will take care of the public hearing part of it.
Yes, good evening. As discussed, Public Works had put together a proposal to purchase 7 police package vehicles. As discussed, one of them will be a Chevrolet Tahoe that Bertrich has under a state contract. And the 6 Explorers would come from Hertritz also, but they would be under Anne Arundel County contract. As discussed, there are Ford is not honoring any state contracts on the police vehicles, so we waited 2 years to get this package done. So we combined the 2019 and 2020 CIP replacement program to purchase these 7 vehicles. The cost for the Chevrolet Tahoe, with all the emergency lights and related equipment, runs $46,743. And the Ford Explorers run $53,268. So we're seeking approval to purchase these 7 at a cost of $366,351.
Thank you, Mr. Faree. What's the pleasure of the council?
I move to approve the fleet acquisition of the 7 police packed SUVs.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nicholas. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman DeWalt. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Rao, please call the roll.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes. Agenda item 7 is the general public hearing. Members of the public are asked to sign the speaker list at the back of the council chambers. Council President calls the speaker list from a sign-in sheet. Each speaker is asked to give their name and address for the record. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. I have first up is Annette Heineman. Ms. Hyman, please come forward again. Give your name and address for the record. Good evening.
Hello, Mayor Moe and council members. My name is Annette Heineman, and I live at 936 Nichols Drive in Laurel. I'm here to talk about the 72-hour parking limit on our residential street. We moved
Can
in.
you pull the mic?
We moved in about 20 years ago, and we had no idea there was a 72-hour limit. We recently were advised that there was a 72-hour limit, and we find that this is a little onerous because we can't even park in front of our own house and go away for the weekend. Some of our neighbors go away for the winter, some for the summer, and having to move cars back and forth would be just, it's not New York City, it's Laurel. There's plenty of parking, and it's a good idea to know who is parking in front of your house. But this ordinance makes it easy for even people that don't live in the neighborhood to harass people by calling up the police or saying somebody's been leaving their car there. So that's all. Anything else? Yeah. Somebody goes to the hospital, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
No?
I can make a couple.
I was going to ask either you or the chief to on that.
We can, there's a couple things. The 72 hours been there for many, many years, and I think that's something that is beneficial to the community. If there's issue, and the reason I say that is you could actually have someone park in front of your house, my house, and just leave their vehicles there. There's got to be some kind of way to be able to have those vehicles moved, or at least that they're not
there.
Or maybe if there's some sort of change to the law where if it's in front of your own house.
Yeah, I
you
think
park there.
I talked to the city, and I know you talked to the city administrator and talked to a couple of the council members, I think, that have talked to you as well. I think there's a couple of things we can look at and put into place, and that is if you go out of town or you do certain things, we already have those things in place. It just may be making sure that the policy's in effect for, for the vehicles. But, I don't know if the chief has anything, Mr. President, but I know City Administrator Goddard and I know Ms. Crook and them have talked about this as well. We talked internally. We're just not ready to.
Yeah, it
make
might be a good
recommendations.
idea even to post that there's a 72-hour limit if they're going to actually enforce it like that. But since nobody really wants to enforce it like that, maybe it should just be changed or modified so that residents at least can, because nobody, not everybody on our street, I should say, has a driveway or a garage.
Right.
And we've been parking there for 20 years.
Right.
One of the things I'd like to suggest, not just to you, but to anyone, because this is a citywide ordinance, and that is if you know that you're going to be away from your home for a few days. We have a program already with the police department where you call the police department, notify them that you're going to be away from your home. They will do house check and a number of other things and make them aware that you have a vehicle parked on the street. So they can also be aware. So if you're more than 72 hours parked, the police have already been notified in advance. The same applies, you mentioned, if you're in the hospital or even if you're in your home ill.
Right.
Just a phone call.
When I did that with the police, I was advised that there's still a 72-hour limit, and I should give my keys to a neighbor and have them move my car. And originally, when I when I first talked to them, the impression I got was, yes, like you said, that you could just call them and they just needed to know whose car was there and whose it was. And I thought that was the end of it, but no, it was 72 hours. Was as long as somebody complained, I was going to get 72-hour ticketing.
We'll take
Our
care
chief
of that
is
issue.
here to make a comment.
Can I make a comment before the
Yes,
chief?
I'll let
Okay.
Councilman Sidney.
I know in DC they have the same section like that. They have a sticker. So we can come up with a program with a sticker and put on an individual resident of the city. That sticker will stay on their car the whole time. Then they'd be exempt from the 72-hour parking because they're a resident of the city.
That's an
That'd
idea.
be the easier. I don't know the easier. That's what they have in DC. So if you go, the police come by and they don't see a sticker, that person that live in that neighborhood, then that person get a ticket.
But when
that
people
sticker
have
there.
like rental cars for their car being worked on or a kid home from college, they should be able to just say, hey, I've got another car here, and we park Johnny's car in front of your house. And sure, I can say.
Yeah, that
Something
rental
more
car
flexible.
probably would be a little different, but your resident, your permanent car, that should be
Right.
something. 2 stickers per household.
Yeah.
If we can work out something like that, that way you don't have to keep
Or
moving your
3.
car, keep calling the police and say I'm going out of town. Your
People
car.
are 4,
That's something that we can talk to the administration about. That's how they do it in big cities. So
That's an idea.
President Smalls, can I make a comment?
Yes.
I'm a little confused. Who's reporting your car being parked
I'm
there?
not sure. I'm not really sure.
I have cars in front of my house for 5, 6, 7, 8 days, and nobody bothers them.
Well, so have we. We've been away for months before.
Have you gotten cited for it?
I'm sorry?
Have you gotten a ticket for it?
Yes.
A ticket or a warning?
Ticket.
An actual citation?
Actual ticket.
And who's
We
writing
went-
that? The police or the
court.
parking guy? You know?
Yeah, I think it was.
That's bizarre.
Might have been the parking.
That's the most bizarre thing I ever heard. Why would anybody complain about you parking your car in front of your house?
There are cranks out there.
Oh, my.
There are people that just want to cause trouble. And we were the recipient of it this time.
That's the most bizarre thing.
Well,
Chief?
stuff happens.
As for our end, ma'am, I'll just make sure our officers are trained on the policy and they understand the parameters around it.
But my issue is, as long as there remains a 72-hour limit on the book, there's a 72-hour limit.
Yes, ma'am.
So, unless they change it, do something, unless it's in front of your own house, unless you have a permit, that would be great, because that sort of alleviates the problem of a crank who maybe doesn't even live next door, complaining.
Yes, ma'am.
Just takes them 30 seconds.
One would think that there would be, yeah.
In the interest of at least moving this part of the meeting along, and I know, Ms. Hyman, you've already talked and probably have ongoing conversations with our city administrator. With the advisement of the chief and the city administrator, I'd certainly like to encourage, this conversation to continue with them. But I think, as the mayor stated, I don't know that there'll be an actual change to the 72-hour law, but I think there may be room to make some kinds of adjustments that will accommodate, if I'm hearing the chief and others, that will make, again, citywide, and not specific to just your particular
especially in
situation.
residential areas, where it's not, there's not businesses or something like that. Especially, where there's no driveway or garage.
Absolutely. I completely
Because
understand.
honestly, if when we moved in, they had this 72-hour rule posted on our street, we never would have bought a house in this neighborhood. And it would be very difficult to sell a house if people knew that there was a 72-hour limit.
But I don't know of very many places in Maryland, and as Councilman DeWalt mentioned, it may not be enforced, it may not be
Exactly.
reported, but I think in most jurisdictions you'll find, whether it's 72 hours or some other time period, there are parking restrictions. We have officers in the room. Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is, like, how long has this parking restriction been on the book? I think in 1943, when our house was built, it probably wasn't.
Pretty close.
It goes back that far.
Pretty close, because these are public streets.
Yeah,
And what happened was you didn't have the cars you had back then.
right,
And then they started appearing 2 and 3 cars per house.
right,
We've been living in our house for 44 years, at least 44 years.
right.
Okay, my wife can't park in front of our house sometimes.
Because other people are parking there.
Huh?
Because other people are parking there, yeah.
And it's a public street.
Well, yeah, and certainly we have had that issue when people have parties and stuff like that.
And I think somebody's probably may not like you. And they're complaining about you.
I would say
I'll
that
say
is
it.
possibly something to be
Okay,
considered.
but
because-
I'm saying that these are public streets, and that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
You can't tell people they can't park on public streets.
Yeah.
So again, we'll continue this dialogue with our
Great.
city administrator and other appropriate
Well, I
appropriate
appreciate
folks.
your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening
Thank
to me.
you.
I'm glad I'm not the only person that.
No.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Nicole Brooks. Ms. Brooks, if you'll come forward and give your name and address for the record.
Nicole Brooks. I live at 12403 Eastgate Lane in Laurel, Maryland. I just wanted to come today to discuss with you a program my husband and I developed in an effort to combat childhood obesity and to establish healthy habits in our youth ages 6 to 12. We developed a kids fitness program, and the one thing we were thinking about is how can we spark the interest of kids 6 to 12 that want to make them want to work out. So we have a field day twist to our fitness classes, which involves obstacle courses like you would see on Ninja Warrior, but of course age appropriate, tug of war, relay races, sack races, etc. We've had the support from Councilman Sitnor, so thank you so much. And thank you so much to Joanne Barr and her entire Parks and Recs team. On August 17th, we're going to have a Kid Fit Day workshop, and the Fit Day workshop is going to be held at Robert Peachtree Community Center from 1 to 3. Kids will be able to be involved in all types of fitness activities, including the ones I spoke about, the tug of war, the relay race, etc. It'll be music, it'll be snacks, it'll be a lot of fun for the kids to just come and check us out and see what we're about. So I just wanted to let you guys know what we were doing.
Thanks,
you
Ms.
so
Brooks.
much. I appreciate it.
Back when Councilman Les and I were in elementary school. There was the President's Fitness Challenge, I think it was something like that. And that encouraged young kids, elementary and middle school kids, to do the same thing, to strive. There was a structured program. You got a patch. That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, maybe the mayor was around then too. But it sounds like that's the kind of program that you and your husband have developed and working towards. Please let our council office know the date so that we can add it to our calendar, because we'll I'm sure that we'll participate. You do have a flyer? Okay. Yes. You give it to Ms. Rao.
Councilman President, it's already scheduled. The city approved it. The city is partnership with their organization on the 17th of August. So we're going to be out there from 1 to 3.
Go through the maze.
Yeah, you can be there. Yeah, so it's already
As long as
scheduled.
I don't have to crawl through it.
And I actually won the Presidential Physical Fitness Award when I went through DC Police Academy.
Okay.
So it's funny that you bring that up.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in your program. I think I definitely will attend. And it falls in line with, bullying in schools and things. We have some children that are not friendly.
Yeah.
So this fitness falls in line with all of that. So I'm very interested and I will attend.
Thank you so much.
Councilman
We
Lance.
appreciate
Yeah, Mr.
you
President,
asking for it.
let me just mention that he's speaking for himself with his age. Because he's a little bit older than I am, but not much. But let me just say that obesity is a real problem in Prince George's County. A real problem. And the problem with obesity is a lot of these kids that end up in kind of chunky end up with diabetes. Okay, so whatever we can do to get them in better shape so that they put off developing that type of diabetes until later in life, it'll be good for them. It'll be good for our society. It'll be good for Prince George's County. So I applaud you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Mr.
much.
President.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you for your
That concludes the names on our sign-in sheet. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the general public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:12. Agenda item 8A is a second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1946, an ordinance to amend the general operating budget and capital improvement program of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019. I read the title into the record for the second reading. Ms. Saylor?
Mr. President, as we discussed at the July 8th meetings, this is the third amendment to the FY 2019 operating budget and capital improvement program. This ordinance provides for your ratification of intra-departmental transfers within the Department of Public Works budgets, as well as Parks and Recreation, as well as various expenditure line item savings to be transferred and to make an additional contribution to the pension fund. It allows for the excess collections and various revenue items, as well as savings and other expenditure line items, to replenish the unassigned fund balance and to create a retention and recruitment reserve of $150,000. It allows for the additional real estate tax revenues to reduce, to make a corresponding reduction to the use of designated funds that were previously budgeted for this year. Since our last meeting, there had been a couple of adjustments that I needed to add. On page 1 toward the bottom, we're adding $4,000 additional to the senior program fees. They exceeded the projected revenue in their senior trips and special events, which of course created a corresponding expenditure. So there's also a $4,000 addition to the senior services programs budget, which is shown on the bottom of page 2. Additionally, I need to add funding to the Laurel Municipal Center maintenance budget, as well as the Barkman Kaiser Public Safety Complex maintenance budget. Both of these department budgets experienced unanticipated major repairs to the HVAC units. So that's $5,000 additional to the municipal center and $15,000 to the Barkman Kaiser building, and that total of $20,000 is coming from savings at the Robert J. DePietro Community Center maintenance budget. So overall, it's still a reduction to the budget of $473,700, and there's no additional changes to the CIP.
Thank you, Ms. Saylor. I will open a public hearing at 7:15. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:15, and council, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve orders 1946, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Sidnor. Councilman Les, was your second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? As amended, yes, as amended. Any discussion? Councilwoman Nicholas.
I'd just like to say that our senior programs are very popular. As I'm around in the community, there are a lot of seniors that really compliment Parks and Recs for the field trips, and they talk about a lot of the staff, particularly Gina, that, you know, provide transportation, but they go on a lot of great trips. I see them on Facebook. So that's good. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nicholas. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes.
Mayor Mo?
Let me thank council and also Ms. Saylor for the work that she's done with her staff. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes our agenda. Is there any other business to come before the mayor and city council? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.